Hello, world, and welcome to another podcast of It's Not You, It's Autoimmune with your host, Dr. Jocelyne Eberstein. Dr. Jocelyne Eberstein has over 25 years of experience as a doctor of Oriental medicine, medical acupuncture, and functional medicine practitioner. As a community, we are stronger and wiser. You got this, America, where good health is just a podcast away.
Welcome to another episode of It's Not You, It's Autoimmune. I'm your host, Dr. Jocelyne Eberstein, and today is the first of a two-part series on cancer. So in this episode, we will be talking about what is cancer, what it is, and how we can change the environment in which cancer lives inside our body. So let's talk about how to manage this disease. Well, the first way we have to manage this disease is reduce the risk. So how do we do that? Again, prevention is the only cure. The only cure to cancer is really not to get it, okay? So we can't take our risk down to zero, but we sure can make it harder for cancer to grow. So true cancer prevention is preventing the dis-ease, like meaning you're not at ease with the cancer. You can still have the cancer and be a healthy person. And that's what we're going to be talking about. Cancer in and of itself, it's not written in our genetic code. I'm going to give you an example. So everybody's heard, well, maybe you haven't heard, there's a Braca gene mutation. Angelina Jolie was very public about this. And it's basically a high risk of reproductive cancer. So you'll get things like ovarian cancer and breast cancer very, very easily. So what women in this country do is they take out all their parts, okay, all their reproductive parts. That doesn't happen in Europe. They do not do that. The Braca mutation, I want to let you know, has the prevalence of it hasn't changed since 1950. But now in the year 2000, the number of women that develop breast cancer and ovarian cancer is super significant, really increased since 1950. So what's changed? It's not the genes, it's our environment. Again, we can't just look at the genes. We have to look at the impact of the environment. And when I'm talking about environment, I'm not just talking about the environment out there and the air and the plastics and Monsanto. We're talking about your environment inside your body. So both of these environments express how affects how your genes are going to express themselves. So they can these environmental changes inside and out can change the body both negatively and positively. So say for a Braca gene, say you're carrying the Braca gene, and people really are scared of that. People who exercise daily, have a normal body weight, eat the recommended veggies and fruits, they have significantly decreased risk of cancer, both in breast and ovarian, and they're carrying the same mutation. So the mutation does not mean you have to express that bad gene. So we in this country have been unconsciously living an unhealthy lifestyle. We're unaware of the damage that we've been doing to ourselves. And so unless we bring some consciousness and awareness of the unhealthy lifestyle and what changes we need to make, and do the changes, you have to take action, okay? We can't change the progression of cancer or the ability to get cancer. And by the way, it's not going to be an instant change. It's a continuum, all right? You start slow. We just want to create an environment where cancer can't live. It is not possible for cancer to live if you create an environment inside your body that will not allow it. So there's 5 key pathways for prevention, all right? There's going to be inflammation, hormonal balance, and we're not just talking sex hormones, we're talking stress hormones, insulin is a hormone. You have to have immune competence, so your immune system has to be competent, meaning it's not too robust and it's not too low. You have to have blood sugar regulation, and you have to digest and detox. So let's just start now with just inflammation. So before this period, the 21st century, inflammation was not the cause of death. Before this, we died of infections, all right, in the past century. Now, what we die of is inflammation. So you're talking cardiovascular disease, diabetes, sugar increases inflammation, sugar rusts our bodies inside. Stress causes inflammation. So if you have a lot of big emotions, you have to de-inflame them. So both stress and inflammation also do things like increase this thing called angiogenesis, which is a cancer term, but basically you have an increase in blood vessel formation. And then the inflammation makes sticky blood, and it contracts the organs and the vessels inside. You increase blood pressure. So things that just are normal to do that have been part of our lives for a long time is easy movement, breath, oxygenation. It keeps the blood circulation, lowers angiogenesis, and keeps the blood vessel progression away, like engendering blood vessels. All right. So hormonal balance is our next topic, is our next pathway. In this environment, we live in a swimming pool of hormones, especially estrogens. We're seeing 6-year-old girls with ovarian cancers, honestly, boys that have breasts. Okay, let's look at the plastic bottles. They act as endocrine disruptors. They actually act as estrogen in your body. And we take these plastics and we microwave it. So heating up plastics, making them cold. You take that cold plastic bottle out of the refrigerator. Okay, let's get some estrogen in your body. I want to kill my husband when he does that. It's not cool. Handling receipts, handling cash register receipts. How many of you do that? Like I like hold the bag open because if you check your blood immediately after handling the cash register receipt, your estrogen goes up. All right, and estrogen going up increases blood sugar and cortisol. Cortisol is, everybody knows it creates inflammation. It increases blood sugar, and it increases the stress response. We get an increased stress response. When we have an increased stress response, cortisol is involved, as well as things like adrenaline and epinephrine. And these things are really what push the cancer and the inflammatory pathways. So the third pathway we want to discuss is the immune system. And we're not talking about having a strong immune system. A lot of my patients come to me and go, I want a strong immune system so I can fight COVID or I can fight cancer. Well, that's not what we really want, because the immune system is really complex. There's trillions of cells, and what their job is to search and destroy and identify things like cancer cells, viral cells, bacterial cells, so they can get rid of them. All right. So there's many cell types in the immune system, and they interact and communicate with each other. So it's like a symphony orchestra, right? There's a conductor, and then there's the different sections. And a better so the conduction of that orchestra is what leads to a better immune system, and that's what's going to destroy the cancer. So we want the immune system to be better orchestrated, not just playing loud, all right? The next important pathway, and I think this is one of the leading pathways for cancer development, is insulin and blood sugar regulation, okay? We are swimming in a pool of sugar in our bloodstreams. We eat sugar, and then and then it turns into glucose in your body. Well, you want glucose in your body because that's how you get energy, right? So how it works is when we eat sugar, it turns into glucose, and then the insulin kind of chaperones, escorts the sugar into the cell, all right? And then you get energy, which is kind of a good thing. It's a survival thing, right? But we live in this excess carb, sugar, low exercise environment, right? So when we're like this, low exercise, too many carbs and sugar, especially in the summer for me with all the fruits, the pancreas creates more and more insulin. And then we put more sugar in, and eventually the cells say enough. And so the cells say, I am going to change the locks. I'm not going to let insulin or blood sugar in. And so what we have is all of this insulin and sugar outside of the blood. So those cells are in lockdown. But the problem is Cancer cells never change their locks. They have this voracious appetite for sugar and insulin. And the sugar and the insulin fuel cancer cell growth and cell division. Bad idea, right? And then you add to that additional stress, that increases blood sugar and inflammation. Loss of sleep. I mean, anybody who's lost sleep, who doesn't crave sugar the next day, right? Exercise, not enough, all right? You can't get the blood sugar into the cells. Too many carbs over your lifetime will fuel this cancer growth, all right? So sugar is a big, big, big deal. And I'm talking not just for cancer, but for multiple diseases. The fifth pathway, huge, big, is your digestion. Digestion, which includes detoxification. We need to eat. So we eat food, we break it down, we filter out the bad stuff, sort out the nutrients, keep those in. And then the bad stuff, what we do with the bad stuff is we kind of like bundle it up into these garbage bags. Okay, that's called phase 1 detoxification in the liver. So when these garbage bags accumulate, the garbage trucks take out these bags, and that's the phase 2 of detoxification in the liver. And the path that it gets rid of this garbage is through the kidneys and the colon. So if we eat too much, or if we accumulate way too much garbage, what happens is the garbage company goes, I'm on strike. And then the garbage bags accumulate, and they create this stench. And the stench, actually, it's like fermentation, make the cells behave abnormally. And the cancer cells will divide faster and faster and get aggressive. And so they may not be cancer cells to start, but they will become cancer. So one of the biggest risks for cancer is biotoxicity. That's the medical term for that. So let's talk a little bit about what do we do about it, okay? How do we impact these 5 pathways? Well, of course, diet. Everybody knows about that. There's many different diets. What's the latest craze? What is true is that with all cancer diets, the emphasis is on plants, okay? And we're talking vegetables primarily because, fruits are sugars. And we're talking about the plants that live above the ground, not under the ground, so potatoes aren't great. And these plants have like thousands of bioactive molecules. And the more colorful the plants are, the more important they are to activate the DNA. So they have these compounds called flavonoids. Flavonoids have great skill sets. They communicate directly to the DNA, and they even tell your DNA to make your own antioxidants. So the recommendation is eat food, not too much. That's a Michael Pollock. I love his book. Eat a colorful diet. So 7 to 10 servings of vegetables and fruits. Did you see vegetables and fruits? Above the ground, okay? Above the ground. Remember that. It has the most nutrients. I'd like you to eat a whole foods organic diet because if you eat organic, you're going to decrease the toxic stress to the diet, to the body. In addition, we recommend supplements. So in the United States, 35% of us use supplements. Cancer populations use 80 to 90% of them will use supplements. And by the way, they're called supplements. Supplements is not a food, right? So just because you're taking a supplement doesn't give you permission to eat crap food, the crap diet. So we really have to pay attention to that. 5 key groups of supplements for cancer to reduce your cancer risk. First and foremost are omega-3 fatty acids. Those are super important because they reduce inflammation, all right? Probiotics, or you can eat fermented foods. Those allow the metabolically active microbiome. So this is the gut bacteria. This is the second largest metabolic organ in your entire body. Next to the liver, that's like metabolically active. So the more we can get the microbiome to do work for us and get rid of the garbage bags, because that's the way we get rid of the biotoxins, is through the colon, the better you're going to be. There's a group also of what we call polyphenols. So these are food groups, okay? And they're common, all right? I'm going to give you the common ones. So curcumin, use it in your cooking. By God, it's just so easy. Just put a little bit of that yellow stuff in there. Green tea. Everybody's heard green tea. The active compound in it is called EGCG. If you can't stand green tea, and if I hear another patient tell me I don't like green tea, my recommendation is just get a green tea you might like, maybe put 4 bags in 1 cup of water. You can even make like a sun tea with it. It's easy. And if that doesn't work, you can take a pill. All right. There's other recommendations. I'm going to post that on our podcast on the podcast website. AUTOIMMUNEPodcast.com and eCenterWellness.com. I'm going to post all of this on there so you can refer to that. The next thing is antioxidants. So everybody's heard of antioxidants, right? So you eat vegetables and fruits for the antioxidant effect. But there are, if you have a cancer or if you're concerned about cancer, the king antioxidant is a substance called glutathione. All right, glutathione is so remarkable. It is, number one, it tends to be a little expensive, in a pill form, but basically it sits in the middle of the cell and it affects energy production in the cell, it affects the inflammation, and it affects detoxification. What more could you want in your body? All right. The fourth group that I like is it's common knowledge, all right? So vitamin D. Why do I like vitamin D? It enhances natural killer cells. It mounts an attack against things that don't belong in our bodies, like cancer. So how do we get it? We can get it in pills. If you're taking it in pills, it's not going to be absorbed very well unless you supplement it with K. And then if you need more information, again, the website, that's good. But also sun exposure. I love sun exposure because it resets a lot of things and a lot of mechanisms in our body, especially early morning sun. 15 minutes first thing in the morning at sunrise is manna for your body. It just, your body has all these clock genes. That's why I want you to get sun. Okay, so the fifth area that I want you to supplement is the mitochondria. What is a mitochondria? Mitochondria is the energy factory inside your cell. It is the driver of detoxification. It provides the energy. It's called ATP. So it gives the cell energy to get rid of bad stuff, to do things like tell a cancer cell to die. It's super good. So the number one nutrient for that is called CoQ10. I recommend high doses of that for anybody because you will feel a remarkable amount of energy from that. And then there's other ones that I, again, refer to the website because we don't have all the time in the world to discuss everything because there's a lot. So movement and exercise, the best strategy, and I think it's the most important strategy of all because it's critical to apoptosis, which is the cancer cell dying. When the body tells it, you die. It's cell death, okay? It also will decrease DNA damage. And the benefits of exercise, I mean, anybody who's exercised knows they're going to feel better, they're going to have more energy, they're going to be more calm, they'll be less irritable, less upset. You'll have way more stress resilience, right? So you decrease the stress response. You'll have happier bones. You'll decrease diabetes. You'll think better. I mean, I can't think as well unless I exercise in the morning. And you'll reduce inflammation, less weight gain, and your immune system is definitely stronger. So if you are a cancer patient, I really urge you to at least do something for 15 minutes a day. That alone, and it doesn't have to be much, will improve your immune system. That is strategy number one. And, when we look at the studies, I mean, the exercise decreases the risk of so many cancers. We've got breast, colon, prostate, uterine, lymphoma. So why wouldn't you? Regular exercise reduces these risks by about 50%. I don't know any drug on the market that does that or any other strategy. So this is number one, all right? The fourth thing that has to be in place, and this is the really, honestly, it's the hardest one, is stress reduction. So let's talk a little bit about stress. So what is stress? Stress means survival for us. So when we were running in the savannah and we saw the tiger, we initiated the stress response. But that was for a very limited time. I mean, the thing was, you either got eaten or you ate, and it's done in 20 minutes. But if we see the tiger over and over and over again with traffic, with deadlines, with money situations, with relationships not going right, and the not enough, I don't have enough love, I don't have enough of whatever, that causes stress and you get stuck. If the stress response gets stuck on, you release stress hormones. Stress hormones make cells behave abnormally. That'll accelerate aggressive behavior from cancer cells. And you have to be able to know how to switch off this stress response. So one of the biggest places that the stress response gets turned on, especially in the world of cancer, is when we first get that diagnosis, that initial shock. It's like, you need to metabolize and get off of that as soon as possible, because if it's stuck in the on switch, it's going to create and disable your immune system. It'll create increased growth factor. It'll create signals to the cancer. Hey, progress faster. And by the way, metastasize. Go to other parts of the body. So being in shock over the diagnosis is the emergency. Cancer is not the emergency, not the diagnosis of cancer. So things that you can do are meditation, go out in nature. I mean, it doesn't have to be a rigorous kind of de-stressor. I mean, you can listen to meditation tapes. It's very easy. Now, in my practice, what I see a lot, because we run genetics, is some people have, and I do as well, the COMT SNP. It's a genetic defect that you produce a lot of dopamine, which is kind of your pleasure thing, pleasure neurotransmitters, but you don't get rid of it very well. So if you have a lot of dopamine floating around because you have this genetic defect that you can't get rid of it, when you add stress on top of that, you can't get rid of the stress. It really amplifies this dopamine, this driver. It's a drive. Dopamine gives you alertness, hyper alertness. It gives you drive, which is kind of good for doctors. But with patients like that, I recommend things like CBD. And I want you to have a medical CBD. I don't want you to go to the head shop and get CBD because you don't know what's in it. Oftentimes it doesn't work, and it's better to be medically prescribed. Another thing that's important is rejuvenation, what I call rejuvenation. There's several parts to this. Really, one of the biggest things I want you to have is rhythm, circadian rhythms, which means being in tune with nature's rhythms. So your body has all of these clock genes. They respond to daylight, they respond to night, and different genes are more active at night and others during the day. So again, what I like you to do is in the morning, get up there and get the sunrise light over your eyes, because it stimulates your pineal gland and your pituitary gland, and it starts everything rolling in the right direction. If we don't live in that rhythm, if we sleep during the day and live at night, it'll alter and negatively affect your body. So we know that statistically, night shift workers, they die. They get cancer. They get more cancer. So are people who are blind. I don't know if you've seen the commercials nowadays that they have, for a blind guy, there's a medication so that he can have these rhythms, because they're so critically important to your body's health. I mean, even your digestion has clock genes, all of your so you can't even go to the bathroom correctly if you don't have, or eliminate correctly, if you don't have these clock genes working. I'd like for you to have rituals, okay? And rituals sounds kind of boring, but if you look at the studies like on the blue zone, you want to live life in a little bit similar through day in and day out, because it causes less stress. It will cause less cancer. Living like every day's a new day, it's really super exciting, but it is stressful. And so that adds more of a stress burden to your body. Getting enough rest, again, I'll rest when I'm dead, bad mantra. So resting and getting enough sleep is really important. And also taking naps. There's nothing wrong with naps. Now, I don't want you to take 2-hour naps. Why? Because that, again, changes the rhythms. Your naps are no more than 20 minutes. And what it'll do is this rest will reset your body's processes. It'll allow you to do cell repair. So when we sleep, what happens is there's certain hormones that get released. And when they get released, it's kind of like the little elves come out and repair the inside of your body, right? And so it's super important for cancer to really do this cell repair. So far, what we've talked about is what is cancer, who gets it? And we've talked about prevention. I want everyone to stay tuned for our next episode on cancer, in which we'll be discussing active treatments and how to prevent cancer recurrences. So if you have other questions, I'd like for you to talk to your physician and be an active participant on our Facebook page, It's AUTOIMMUNE. That's all one word, It's AUTOIMMUNE. And I'd like to thank you for listening to It's Not You, It's AUTOIMMUNE, which is presented by the eCenter, a well-recognized wellness clinic where patients enjoy a huge quality of life as partners in their own health. Find them online at ecenterwellness.com. And again, I encourage you to send your questions in both on our Facebook and our website. So for more information about this episode and past shows, visit us on www.autoimmunepodcast.com and ecenterwellness.com. So visit our socials. I'd love for you to like, follow, and share. Share with your friends on Facebook at It's AUTOIMMUNE, on Instagram, It's Not You _ It's AUTOIMMUNE. This is Dr. Jocelyne Eberstein signing off from UBN Go Studios in Burbank. Until next time, I want you to stay well and do good in the world.